Number 1.
Keyonna Cole has been missing since February 10, 2019. The 27-year-old woman lived in Brooksville, Florida prior to her disappearance. She was raising a 3-year-old son. On the evening of her disappearance, Keyonna was last seen after 11 p.m., walking down Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Boulevard towards Broad Street. She never returned home and has never been seen or heard from again. 3 months before her disappearance, Keyonna was the victim of an attempted homicide at the hands of her ex-boyfriend Dwayne Williams. Williams reportedly attacked and strangled her. Keyonna was 5 months pregnant at the time of the attack, and she unfortunately lost her baby as a result. Williams was arrested after the attack, but was released on bond at the time of Keyonna's disappearance. Keyonna was scheduled to attend a deposition regarding the case on February 11, 2019, but she never showed up. According to Detective Nikki Stevens of the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, Keyonna is the victim of a previously attempted homicide. She was strangled and the 5-month-old fetus that she was carrying subsequently died because of the attack on her, said Det. Stevens. She always made sure that she checked in with family members or saw her son, and neither has happened since February 10, Det. Stevens continued. Keyonna was last seen walking on Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Boulevard toward Broad Street in Brooksville, Florida. The day after she disappeared, Keyonna Cole was scheduled to meet with the detective about Dwayne Williams, the suspect charged with her attempted murder. She never showed up for her appointment, and her loved ones and investigators have been tirelessly searching for her since. Although police haven't named Williams as a person of interest in Keyonna's disappearance, the missing woman's family believes that the cases are directly related. For her to just not be seen at all for this amount of days is unlike her, said Tawania Munford, Cole's cousin. I don't want her son to grow up without a mom. She kept getting threats to be paid off not to testify, and she was scared, her cousin Simone Hicks said. Keyonna's family concludes that she was forcefully taken or kidnapped, while investigators believe Keyonna's is an endangered missing person. Keyonna's family has taken on the responsibility of caring for her 3-year-old son. We're a very close family. She just wouldn't leave like this. She checked in with her aunts all the time, that's who has her son. She would never leave like this, Hicks said. According to loved ones, Keyonna was worried about testifying in the case. She was reportedly receiving threats in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Keyonna's family members believe that Williams has information about her disappearance, but at this time no arrests have been made in the case. At the time of her disappearance, Keyonna Cole was described as being 5 feet 6 inches tall and 145 pounds. She has black hair and brown eyes. No other distinctive marks, scars, or tattoos have been provided publicly. Anyone with information regarding the missing person case involving Keyonna Cole is urged to contact Detective Nikki Stevens at 352-754-6830 or your local law enforcement agency. She is our sister and her life matters.
Number 2.
32-year-old Lauren Colvin, also known as Lauren Elizabeth Thompson, has been missing since January 10, 2019. The mother of 3 was last heard from that day, after she called 911 around 2:30 p.m. Lauren told dispatchers that she was running through a wooded area of Panola County, Texas, and that somebody was chasing her. Dispatchers stayed on the phone with Lauren for over 20 minutes, and through phone pings the police were able to locate the area where the call was placed. Within minutes, police found Lauren's car stuck in the mud on the side of the road near the Rock Hill community. However, they were unable to locate Lauren herself. More than 2 years after she went missing, the Panola County Sheriff's Office still does not know what happened to Lauren Thompson. The mother of 3 called 911 on the afternoon of January 10 in distress, saying she was in a wooded area and thought someone was chasing her. But her cell phone died during that call, and law enforcement officers were not able to find her in the Rock Hill area, where her cell phone had last pinged her location. Numerous, widespread law enforcement searches of the woods, where she was last reported to be, have not turned up a whole lot of evidence, Panola County Sheriff Kevin Lake said, but his office continues to investigate the case and hopes they can figure out what happened. "I'm a man of faith," Lake said. "I believe in praying. We solicit prayers to find Lauren for everyone involved, for her family. It's hard for me to not be able to tell her family, give them some closure, and that's what we want to do." Lauren's family, too, is hopeful that answers can be found. Obviously, not knowing is difficult in this situation, Lauren's dad, G.W. Colvin said. Colvin says it's especially difficult for Lauren's 3 children, ages 4, 6 and 10. It's really difficult to try and explain to them exactly what is going on and what the situation is, he said. Lake said the scant evidence they've been able to gather has not pointed to foul play, although that doesn't mean a crime wasn't committed. Lake also said they don't know if Lauren stayed in those woods or found a road and left the area. "That's the million-dollar question, I guess. We really don't know," Lake said. "The last known location is where we were searching, and we searched those areas. We researched those areas. A big problem for the investigation is that the area where Lauren went missing, and really the whole county, was heavily flooded at the time." Lake said some areas were completely unsearchable because of rain and flooding until they dried out a few months later. Law enforcement officers have searched more than 2,000 acres of dense woods on foot and about 8,000 acres by air, including helicopters and drones. But the wooded area where Lauren went missing, Lake noted, was very difficult to search. Search teams have included law enforcement officers from surrounding agencies, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, as well as a search dog network. "That's something that was really important to our office to begin with," Lake said. "We had a lot of local people offering to search too, not that we don't appreciate that, and there's times that that's utilized, but when we have teams that are available to come, that are used to dealing with and trained to deal with crime scenes, and we have the potential to have a crime scene, obviously that's who we want on the ground, so we don't contaminate everything." Having said all that, Lake added later, "It brings us back around to the point of, she could still be in that area, she could be somewhere else, because we don't know for sure that she didn't make it to the road and get a ride." The sheriff's office has also completed a DNA profile, with help from Lauren's family, and has gotten that information entered into national databases. "That helps if remains are found anywhere in the nation, that now we have that DNA profile to go with the missing persons case," Lake said. Lake said last year his office had no proof of foul play, and he said the evidence today still does not point in that direction. "I think that was really a hot topic at one time. Something like this happens, how can you say there's no foul play involved?" Lake said. "We can speculate. But it's not our job to speculate. We're fact finders, and so we have not collected any evidence to make us confirm that foul play is involved." Could there be foul play involved? Absolutely, and that's why we're so concerned about preserving if we find a crime scene. But Lake said he does not believe that Lauren would decide to disappear and start a new life, because he does not think she would have abandoned her children. He also said his department does not plan to release the evidence it has collected, such as the 911 call. We've not released that to the public because it is evidence, and we don't know if we have a crime or not," Lake said. "We've been asked numerous times to release the 911 call, and we're not going to do that." "Is it because there's something to hide?" "No, it's not because there's something to hide. It's because that's one of the only pieces of evidence that we have." Lake said speculation that gunfire can be heard on the call, or that Lauren got shot while calling 911 is wrong. "That's not the 911 call that I listened to," Lake said. "I don't believe that happened." "Do I believe that she was in distress?" "Absolutely." Joey Ortega, a private investigator, is working with the Colvin family on the investigation and acting as their spokesperson. Ortega said a lot of the work he's done has been to try to sift through the information that's come in and develop new leads, as well as clarifying conflicting information or statements. It opened the door to realizing that some people that were initially glossed over might have merited further scrutiny and certain alibis re-examined, he said, noting that the information he gets is passed on to the sheriff's office. Ortega is hopeful that Lauren can be found. "I have no qualms in saying that there's not anything to say that. I know statistically these things don't always end with the way we would want them to, especially as parents, but setting aside all of the rumors and all the conjecture and innuendo, and looking at some of the leads that they have gone through, and some of the new leads that I had developed, not only am I hopeful personally that we can find resolution here, but that there's nothing to say that finding her alive is an impossibility. I have not by no means given up on that." Something that both Lake and Ortega expressed frustration over was a push from other outside parties, not involved in the investigation, to spread conspiracy theories or rumors about the case. "The unfortunate part about that is we get really far-fetched tips that result from that," Lake said. "But we have to check into them. So we're exhausting a lot of time and resources looking into things that we know are very far-fetched. But we can't not check it out. So really, we're spending a lot of time chasing rabbits, whenever we could be working on something legitimate." Ortega said he hopes he can help recenter the investigation, after all that chaos, making sure that the Colvin family and the sheriff's office work together. "As we're working to sort of reorder the chaos and try to bring a new continuity to our conversations, and a steady flow of information, just making sure it goes both ways and making them feel okay, to sort of give us a bit more than what was given before," Ortega said. "That's been a bit of a challenge, but at the same time it hasn't been fruitless. Baseless theories and speculation push this chaos to places where it need not be," Ortega said. "But a lot of times in a lot of these cases, where there's sort of a lot of speculation and rumor and other stuff, I feel like sometimes it's clear that law enforcement sometimes can have a hand in preventing that too, by not always holding everything close to the vest too, letting some information out to allow people to understand what law enforcement is doing. There are some aspects of the investigation you want to sort of keep under the vest and not put out there to the world. Again, crime isn't a reality show here, but again they work for the public. They answer to the public, and most important, they answer to the family. Do you know something? Lake, Lauren's parents, and Ortega have all asked the public to report to the sheriff's office anything they might know that could help the investigation. A $5,000 reward for information that helps authorities find Lauren also still stands. Really, there's not anything other than we've already requested that, if anybody has any little tidbit of information, whether they think it's relevant or not, they could come forward and submit that to Sheriff Lake and his team so it can be investigated, GW. Colvin said. Of course, the prayers that have been offered up thus far, and any in the future, they have been appreciated and will be appreciated. We've felt support from the community, and we are very appreciative of everything that has been done locally, and by local law enforcement to help locate our daughter. Lake said his department's primary focus in the case is finding Lauren. If anybody knows anything that they have not reported, then we beg you to call and give us that information so we can look into it, Lake said. Investigators announced that at this time, they do not have any reason to believe foul play was involved in Lauren's disappearance. However, they also stated that nobody has been ruled out yet either. Lauren's family is holding out hope that she is still alive, and they are offering a $5,000 reward for anyone with information that could lead to her safe return. If you have any information that could help the investigation, please contact the Panola County Sheriff's Office at 903-693-0333.
Number 3.
Lisa Hazard has been missing since March 5, 2019. The 29-year-old woman was last seen in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Shortly before she vanished, Lisa had told her friends that she wanted to turn her life around. She had been struggling with drug addiction and reportedly wanted to get clean. Lisa's sister unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose a few months before Lisa disappeared. According to friends, her sister's passing is what made Lisa finally decide to get treatment for her addiction. Lisa's close friend Eddie Pimentel stated that he last spoke to Lisa on March 4, 2019. Lisa had been staying with Eddie at his mother's home in Taunton in the months leading up to her disappearance. Eddie and Lisa last communicated through Facebook Messenger, and during their conversation Lisa told Eddie that she was going to visit her 3-year-old son in New Bedford. She also reportedly said that she was going to enter a rehabilitation center soon. The father of Lisa's son said that Lisa told him she was going to go buy drugs in Fall River before checking into the rehabilitation center. She was then reportedly picked up at the father of her son's home by an unspecified individual. Lisa has never been seen or heard from again. My sister was a good-hearted person, outgoing, loved to spend time with her son and family, that was her everything, said Christina Roses, Hazard's younger sister. Roses launched a Facebook group called Let's Bring Lisa Hazard Home on December 22 in the hopes someone will come forward with information in the case. She liked to do hair, and she was trying to renew her cosmetology license, Roses said of her sister in an email to the Standard Times. She said Hazard received her cosmetology license from Bristol Plymouth Regional Technical School, and that Hazard talked about getting the license renewed so she could start applying for jobs. She was ambitious, encouraging and funny. She was an amazing person fighting demons, sadly, Roses wrote, opening up about Hazard's drug addiction. Her friend, Eddie Pimentel of Taunton, told the Taunton Gazette in January 2020 that he last spoke to Hazard on March 4, 2019, when she told him she was packing her stuff in anticipation of getting a ride from New Bedford to enter a drug rehabilitation facility. She had been visiting her then 3-year-old son for a couple days at the New Bedford home of the boy's father, Pimentel told the Taunton Gazette. We do have some leads, active steps we can take to put us in a positive direction on this case, said Detective Derek Beaulieu of the Fall River Police Major Crimes Division. He took over the case in November 2019. We have less than a handful of cases of missing Fall River people who are not found, Beaulieu said. This one has eluded us. Beaulieu said on the day Hazard reportedly disappeared, police could find no evidence of her actually entering a drug rehab facility. We don't know if she entered the city, Fall River, or even left New Bedford, Beaulieu said. A person known to police as a drug dealer Hazard may have procured drugs from was interviewed and is not a person of interest, Beaulieu said. Hazard, who was 29 when she disappeared, was last seen wearing black sweatpants and brown boots. She is 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighs 110 pounds, and has brown hair, brown eyes, and a tattoo of the astrological sign for Aries on her right wrist. Hazard has ties to Fall River, New Bedford and Taunton, according to Fall River Police. Hazard wasn't reported missing by her family until a couple of months later. My family didn't report it right away because she had done this before, especially if she was in rehab, Roses wrote. And at the time, my mom was sick and I was trying not to stress her more. Roses said the family had just lost an older sister to drug addiction and didn't want her mother to think Hazard was officially missing. Her mother died on March 1, 2020. About the Facebook group Roses has set up to help find her sister, Bullia said anything that can be done to move the case forward is helpful. So far, the group, which has 92 members, has been populated with posts from friends and family praying for Hazard's safe return. A detective working the case told reporters that everyone they have interviewed in regards to Lisa's disappearance has been cooperative and they have not been able to identify a person of interest. Still, foul play has not been ruled out in the case, and the investigation remains active. If you have any information that could lead to Lisa's whereabouts, please call the anonymous tip line at 508-672-8477.
Number 4.
Melissa Garcia has been missing since April 23, 2019. She was last seen in Columbus, Ohio, where she was reportedly living with her significant other. There are very few details about the circumstances surrounding Melissa's disappearance, but certain sources say she might have traveled to the Hilliard-Rome area. Despite this, Melissa has not been seen or heard from again. Melissa's parents have put a $1,000 reward in place for anyone with information leading to Melissa's whereabouts. To supplement this, a GoFundMe page was started to raise that reward money up to $3,000. The page's description seemingly provides a few more details about the case. It states, "Unfortunately, over time her missing persons case has gone cold, up until recently, which we have a definite direction to head in that has led us to believe she could have possibly been sex trafficked. However, it is confirmed that she is being held against her will, nonetheless." The GoFundMe will be a great incentive for those who are afraid to speak out or did not think they had a reason to speak out before to do so. There is already a $1,000 cash reward in place without this GoFundMe page posted, but as we know, money talks. The details mentioned on the GoFundMe page have not been confirmed by mainstream media. It is unclear where the information came from or if it is even true, but it is clear that Melissa's disappearance is suspicious. It is reportedly unusual for her to be out of touch with her friends and family members. Additionally, Melissa was quite active on social media prior to her disappearance. She posted the picture below to her Facebook page just days before she vanished. It is reportedly unusual for her to be out of touch with her friends and family members. None of Melissa's social media accounts have been accessed since the day she was last seen. Melissa remains missing. If you are interested in donating to the GoFundMe, please go here. Additionally, if you have any information that could lead to Melissa's whereabouts, please call 13136140869 to submit an anonymous tip.
Number 5.
Monica Moynan vanished at the age of 22 in April 2019. The mother of two was living in Holly Springs, North Carolina at the time of her disappearance. Monica was last seen in person by 44-year-old Brian Sluss, her boyfriend and father of her two daughters. However, from April to June 2019, Monica's family members and friends continued to receive text messages from Monica's phone. Her mother grew slightly concerned when she noticed that Monica had stopped calling her, as she previously would call at least once every 2 weeks. Still, the texts Monica's family members and friends received seemed to match Monica's normal texting style, so they were initially not too worried. That all changed in early July 2019, when the manager at Monica's apartment called her mother and expressed concern for the young woman. The manager had reportedly seen Brian Sluss at their apartment numerous times, but had not seen Monica at all since late March 2019. A welfare check was requested, and when police were unable to pinpoint Monica's whereabouts, she was reported missing. Moynan has not been found, but Holly Springs Police Chief John Herring told us Friday that investigators have a solid case and a significant amount of physical evidence. When you don't have a body, there is a lot of evidence that needs to be collected to confirm that the person isn't still alive, Herring said in a phone interview with the NNO. It takes time to gather the evidence. Both Brian Sluss and Jarlyn Sluss were investigated as persons of interest or people who may have key information about a case. In March, the Holly Springs Police Department said Brian Sluss had become a suspect. Before Monica Moynan was declared missing, her family and friends continued to receive text messages from Moynan's phone, and social media posts appeared on her accounts. But Sluss told police he was behind the texts and social media posts, according to search warrant applications. According to search warrant applications, Jarlyn Sluss failed to disclose information to police about her communication with her ex-husband until confronted about it. Based on phone records, police believe Jarlyn and Brian Sluss kept in contact after Moynan is believed to have been killed, search warrant applications state. Jarlyn Sluss told investigators her ex-husband called her the day Moynan is believed to have been killed in an emotional state, the documents state. He talked about what his kids should receive from him, as though he was planning his estate, search warrant applications state. Police say Brian Sluss went to Jarlyn Sluss' house 4 times within a month in April and May 2019, and 2 more times in July, the documents state. After Moynan was reported missing on July 23, Sluss lied to police, saying he was on his way to his parents' house when he was at Jarlyn Sluss's house, the documents state, citing GPS phone records. He told police he asked Jarlyn Sluss to call Moynan's apartment manager and pretend to be Moynan, according to search warrant applications. Police also recorded a phone call between her and Brian Sluss. A search warrant was executed at Jarlyn Sluss's house in August 2019. Jarlyn Sluss told police she had a copy of a driver's license belonging to Moynan and personal photos of her. Brian Sluss told police he was thinking about rekindling a relationship with his ex-wife, the documents stated. Jarlyn Sluss told investigators she did not lie about her communication with Brian Sluss, but omitted details while speaking to them, the documents state. She would only tell officers what happened when confronted. She also told police that she told her ex-husband about her interactions with them. Finding Moynan is extremely important, her family members told us Thursday. Moynan and Brian Sluss have 2 children, and they want to tell them the truth about their mother. Moni deserves some form of complete rest, and she can't do that when she's out there alone wherever she was left, said Melanie Tucker, Moynan's mother. Months later, in May 2020, Brian was finally arrested and charged with Monica's murder. Just days later, Jarlyn was arrested and charged with obstruction of justice and accessory to murder after the fact. Authorities said that Jarlyn had information about Monica's disappearance for months, yet she did not make any effort to help the investigation. Instead, she opted to assist in covering for Brian. Both Brian and Jarlyn remain behind bars as their charges are pending. Monica's remains have still not been found.
Number 6.
Najah Ferrell vanished in Avon, Indiana, on March 15, 2019. The mother of 2 was reported missing after she failed to show up for employee orientation for her new job at Panera Bread. Over a week later, on March 26, 2019, Najah's car was found abandoned in Indianapolis, near the Panera where she worked. Additionally, some of Najah's items were found, strewn across the interstate. By that point, Najah's family members were certain something bad had happened to her. Najah's mother made a tearful plea for information on her daughter's disappearance during a March 28 press conference. 10 days later, on April 8, 2019, two fishermen called authorities after they reeled a severed foot onto the shore of Crown Point, a pond location over 100 miles away from the town where Najah was seen. In early May 2019, that severed foot was confirmed to belong to Najah Ferrell. Investigators have now shifted her disappearance into a death investigation until police receive more details. "That's my biggest struggle, my biggest challenge is not to know," said Paula Golson, who wakes to the same struggle every morning. "It's almost like Groundhog Day, the movie. You wake up and it's the same day," Golson said. With each day that passes, there are still no answers about what happened to Golson's daughter, a mother of two. Golson knew something was wrong when her daughter didn't show up at her new job that morning and didn't pick up her sons at school later that day. A week later, investigators found Ferrell's car on Indy's northwest side, and some of her belongings scattered along Interstate 65. "We never found her phone and we never found her purse, so those are still missing," Golson said. A month later, men fishing in a retention pond near Crown Point, 100 miles north of Avon, found a severed foot. Tests revealed it belonged to Najah. "I never got to hug her. I never got to kiss her. I never got to say goodbye. I never got a chance to do that, so it's heartbreaking," said Golson, crying. Avon police still don't have any suspects in the case, but are about to start working with cold case investigators from other Indiana agencies. "I know somebody knows something," said Golson. That's what she told producers of Still a Mystery when they interviewed her earlier this year. Now Najah's case is set to be featured on the show's new season on the Discovery Plus, a streaming channel. The episode is called "Somebody Knows Something." Whatever I can do in helping Najah's case, it will help other cases too, as well, if we keep information out there for people that are missing, said Golson, who said she doesn't know when she'll watch it. Raising Najah's two sons, Thomas, 14 and Caden, 8, keeps her busy. "When I see them, I see Najah every day," she said. Looking at her grandsons is a reminder of the justice for Najah, now too long delayed. Golson said she'll never stop seeking it for her daughter. "That's what I'm going to do. If it takes my life to do it, I will do it," Golson said. Najah remains missing today, and her family members are desperate for answers. Anyone with information that could lead to Najah's whereabouts is asked to contact authorities at 317-262 TIPS, 8477.
Number 7.
Paige Coffey has been missing since May 7, 2019. The 27-year-old was reportedly last seen at the Steelyard Commons shopping center in Cleveland, Ohio. She has never been seen or heard from again. At the time of her disappearance, Paige lived at her grandmother's home in Bracknell. She was frequently communicating with her family members and friends, and it is unusual for her to simply stop contacting them. Paige's mother stated that she last saw Paige on April 30, 2019, when she dropped her off in Oakwood Village to visit her boyfriend. Paige and her mother spoke briefly on the phone the following day, and that was reportedly the last time they spoke. Paige's mother reached out via text a few days later, but did not get a response. The last confirmed sighting of Paige was at the shopping center on May 7. Paige's mother reached out to her boyfriend, after days continued to pass without any word from her. The boyfriend told her mother that he did not know where she was. This seemed hard to believe, as Paige and her boyfriend spent most of their free time together. However, Paige's mother did not approve of their relationship, as she felt that her boyfriend was abusive and controlling. It also seemed unusual that the boyfriend had not reached out to the family about Paige being missing. Paige's mother finally filed a missing persons report on May 17, 2019. Family members of 28-year-old Paige Coffey, who was last seen on May 7, 2019, is pleading for information on her disappearance. For the last 9 months, her family has been living in nightmare as their sister, daughter, and niece disappeared last year. She was an all-American girl, Coffey's aunt said during a news conference. Coffey was last seen at a retail store in Steelyard Commons on May 7, 2019. Coffey's disappearance has been agonizing for her family, who says there is no way she would have not talked to any of her family members in 9 months. Her family described Coffey as very artistic, with a great personality, and was always reliable and dependable. Before her disappearance, she was working at Torrid, a retail store in Macedonia. She lived occasionally with her grandmother in Bratenahl. She is a wonderful young lady and very close to her family. She would never have just walked away, her aunt said. 9 months after Paige's disappearance, the FBI and Bratenahl police held a press conference to announce a $5,000 reward in exchange for information about Paige's whereabouts. During the conference, the police chief stated, "Numerous investigative leads have been conducted, but to date nothing has led to the location of Paige. We strongly believe that someone in this community has a vital piece of information that law enforcement needs. It's unclear if investigators consider Paige's boyfriend to be a person of interest. Paige's case remains unsolved. Anyone with information regarding her whereabouts is asked to call the tip line at 216-622-6842.
Number 8.
Investigation discoveries still a mystery profiles, some of the most fascinating yet baffling true crime cases to have transpired in America over the last few decades. Although these criminal matters have, more often than not, been closed, there are still a lot of unanswered questions swirling around them. Thus, this series acts as a platform that tries to examine and settle them. So, of course, its latest episode, My Brother's Keeper, chronicling Parris Hopson's 2019 disappearance, is no different. And now, if you're here curious to know all the details about her case, along with its latest updates, we've got you covered. What happened to Parris Hopson? Parris Hopson, who lived in Columbus, Ohio, with her mother, was visiting her grandparents at their Shriver Avenue SE, Massillon, Ohio, home for the holidays in 2019, when she vanished, never to be seen again. At 26 years old, she seemed uneasy during her stay with her extended family, and her mother later revealed that Parris was having a hard time sleeping for quite a while. According to her cousin, Parris was also dating someone who was allegedly trying to limit her conversations with her friends and family. She might even have been depressed, they said, but she didn't talk about it. Therefore, when Parris announced that she was going for a walk to the nearby park to clear her head on Christmas Day, nobody stopped her. But things became complicated once she didn't return. A neighbor told family members and the police that he and Parris had wished each other a Merry Christmas at around 2:30 p.m. before she continued towards the park once again. And that's the last time anyone ever saw her. Parris had left her cell phone hooked to a charger in her vehicle, parked outside her grandparents' home, and her bank cards and ID were in the car as well. Is Parris Hopson still missing? Is she alive or dead? As soon as Parris' mother, Rochelle Arnold Hopson, reported her missing, both the law enforcement and the community got together to conduct searches around the Massillon area for the young woman, only to come up empty-handed. As per a press release from the Ohio Attorney General, the authorities do not suspect foul play in Parris' disappearance, but they do say that they are concerned for her safety. Parris was last seen alive wearing blue jeans, black boots, a burgundy shirt, and a black purse. A little more than a month after Parris vanished, the Massillon Police Department revealed that they were stalling her case, as no credible data had surfaced within the recent weeks. Officials said they would follow any information that comes their way, but that the tip line had mostly remained silent. In October 2020, some reports claimed that Parris was found safe and sound, but it wasn't true. Moreover, another insistence was that she was living in Hawaii with a new, assumed identity. But again, it was false. In an interview with us, Rochelle clarified that her daughter did not have any mental health or drug issues. The only thing that Parris was a bit preoccupied with was finding the truth about what had happened to her brother Parris. Parris Hopson Jr. had been involved in a hit-and-run car crash on June 17, 2017, and was on life support until his passing in April 2018. He was 23. But now, with Parris having disappeared as well, all the Arnold Hopson family wants are some explanations, and Rochelle seems like she's not going to stop until she gets them. We just want some answers, Rochelle said. Something to help us find out where she is. Someone to come forward with some sort of information. I just don't want to lose hope. In another interview, Parris' cousin, Raquel Arnold, said, even if she is passed, we just want closure. It's terrible, me, my aunt, my sister, we don't trust anyone. It could have been anyone. When we are out, we are looking for her. We walk past a house and we wonder, is she in the basement? It's a daunting feeling. I think I see her and chase down people to find out it isn't her. Once Parris was reported missing, investigators questioned her relatives about Parris' mental health. Her loved ones stated that she might have been depressed or anxious at the time of her disappearance, but she was not making any indications that she planned to harm herself. Parris does not have a history of serious mental health issues, nor does she have a history of using drugs. Her cousin stated that Parris was dating a man who was trying to alienate her from her family and friends, but it is unclear if this man played a role in her disappearance. It is also unclear if Parris' investigation into her brother's death played a role as well. The circumstances of Hopson's disappearance are unclear, and her case remains unsolved.